783 SharesThe 4 Ways Spiritual Beings Guide and Influence. In this article, I'm going to share with you the 4 ways that spiritual beings are influencing you, with or without your conscious awareness, or watch my video on this topic here. As I've mentioned before, living within physical reality, we are always surrounded by an entire ocean of spiritual beings who are guiding and assisting us, or who are influencing in a detrimental way, depending on the beings you are in resonance with. So the more conscious we can as individuals become, the more we're able to discern which are our own thoughts and impulses to action, and where are we being influenced by external spiritual beings. Then, if we recognize that we are receiving guidance from external spiritual beings, we can learn to discern whether that guidance is in alignment with our highest and greatest good, and we can then consciously choose whether we want to act upon that guidance and influence or to choose another way. 4 ways spiritual beings are influencing you. Deep subconscious impulse to action. The first way spiritual beings attempt to influence you is at the level of your deep subconscious mind. Sponsored links. This influence or guidance reaches you through your impulses to action. So without knowing why, or without feeling strongly either way about it, you get an impulse to create some change or to take some action in your life. In a beneficial sense, this could be an impulse to meditate, an impulse to clean up your diet, to start exercising, even to move across the country. I am currently living in Sedona, and many people here don't really know why they're here. They just moved here because of some impulse to action, which in most cases is influenced by an external spiritual being. In a negative sense, this influence through an impulse to action from a spiritual being can take many forms. It could come in the form of an impulse to do something violent or aggressive, to ignore duties and requirements of your physical life, or it could just be an impulse to just say, F it, and get drunk, swing through the liquor store on the way home, or to take that drug in order to suppress whatever you're feeling, to mood alter, and essentially to attempt to ignore what's happening in the physical reality for a temporary shift in mood caused by a substance. Yes, there are spiritual beings who promote substance use and abuse that ultimately is not for your highest and greatest good. So being aware of this, you can begin to observe your impulses to action. Pay attention to the impulses to action you have, knowing that spiritual beings may be influencing you, and ask yourself and just begin to observe so that you can later discern. Is this impulse coming from your true soul and from your inner divine being, or is the impulse to action actually coming from an external being in source? Then, if you discern that the impulse to action is coming from an external spiritual being, is that being a benevolent guiding light of the middle path? Or are they influencing you to become unbalanced, to go more towards materialism or ungrounded spirituality? Subconscious, emotional feeling. The second way that spiritual beings may be influencing you is at the level of your subconscious mind, which is at the level of your feelings. This is an area where I am admittedly influenced when I'm not consciously paying much attention. I'll get a strong feeling that something's not quite right, or a strong feeling that I need to do something different. This influence could be an emotional feeling like love, anger, or even fear, or it could just be a general sense that something is or is not in alignment with you in the moment. So subconscious influence happens when you're guided or influenced at an emotional level. Again, the more you're able to be aware of your natural emotional state, allowing emotions to pass through you without latching on, and without getting spiraled into them, the more you're able to step back, observe, the more you're able to realize and recognize whether your emotions are internally or externally triggered. Awareness is key. Is the emotion you are feeling coming up as a result of something happening in your life? Is that a result of some past trauma or pain needing to be integrated or released? Or is the emotional feeling an external influence from a spiritual being? Being influenced by spirit is not always a bad thing. I do want to clarify that. On every level, we live in a dualistic universe. And so there are both beneficial and detrimental spiritual beings that are influencing you as you go about your day-to-day life. This is why discernment is so key. On the positive side, the angels especially will wrap you in wings of love, help you to feel loved and supported and nurtured. They can help to reconnect you with joy, with enthusiasm, and with divine light. When this happens through emotion, it's happening at the level of your subconscious mind. Conscious thought forms the third way that spiritual beings are influencing you, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. It is at the level of the conscious mind. This guidance or influence comes through thought form that may be in your exact own voice. So if you're not aware, you'll likely interpret the thought form as being your own. Thought forms from spiritual beings may come as a thought to do something, as the answer to a question, a thought of inspiration, encouragement, or on the negative side as a detrimental perspective, or as an externally sourced idea leading you towards being ungrounded in any way. The more you become aware of your thoughts, becoming more conscious in each and every moment, and gaining clarity of thinking, the more you're able to aware of whether the thoughts are of your own origin, or whether they're coming from external spiritual beings influencing you. Learning to quiet your mind, and to quiet the spiral of thoughts, the monkey mind, by consciously cultivating a practice of tuning into inner stillness, peace, and calm, tuning into the space between thoughts. The more you're then able to, through your day-to-day life, observe your thinking and observe not only when thoughts from external spiritual beings are influencing you, but you can observe your own thoughts and recognize where you are thinking in alignment with what you want and where you're thinking at a level of judgment, at the level of the inner critic that ultimately will serve you greatly, and letting go of and ignoring too. Becoming more consciously aware at any level is beneficial, and beginning to recognize how you're being influenced by spiritual beings, so you can then consciously begin to tune into, listen to and receive the guidance, inspiration and insight from beneficial spiritual beings of the middle path, who are seeking to guide, support and assist you in your life. Superconscious, higher consciousness, downloads and frequency transmission. Finally, the fourth way spiritual beings are influencing you, guiding you, and communicating with you is at the level of the superconscious mind. At the level of higher consciousness. So this is really the type of guidance and influence from spiritual beings that is the most powerful, the most in-depth, enlightening, profound, and really it's a level that you have to get yourself up to in order to experience. It is through this higher consciousness sort of communication that you're able to communicate with angels, spirit guides and spiritual beings that's much closer to their natural form. So guidance at the superconscious level comes in through a frequency transmission, as an energy download, as what's sometimes called a packed thought form or a download, where you receive the entire picture, an entire plane of awareness, and a vast data bank of knowledge all at once through a telepathic frequency transmission. This is like receiving an entire knowledge bank of information in a flash, in an instant, without the exchange of any thoughts or even words. It's literally above the level of conscious thought. I sometimes call these transmissions downloads, because it's literally like a computer downloading a new program, software or update. You receive so much information, and then when you bring it back down to the level of your conscious mind, there's the process of unpacking it in order to consciously realize what all is there. So again, even though you're able to elevate into the superconscious state in meditation, it's then essential to anchor that guidance down into your conscious mind so that you decipher and discern what you've received. Discernment. So really within each of these four levels of influence, there is an opportunity to gain clarity and raise consciousness in order to be able to discern what you're receiving, how you're being influenced and whether you want to act upon it, or not. Sponsored links. This is your power, and this is what it means to be a human being, a spirit of love and freedom. It's that you have the freedom of will, you have the freedom of choice, and the ability to choose how you react and respond to guidance and influence from both physical and spiritual being. So just because some creepy lower spiritual being is trying to influence you to take an action that's out of alignment with your divine truth, that doesn't mean you have to do it. It's just like getting bad advice from a sleazy uncle. It doesn't have to adversely affect you at all if you recognize it for what it is, as low-level negative guidance that you can choose to ignore. To surround yourself with light and love, to return to your divine I am core, to return to presence and to clarity, to elevate and expand your consciousness so that you can receive the guidance, the downloads, the healing frequency, and the love from the highest level spiritual beings of the middle path who are available for you to connect with. Connecting with benevolent spiritual beings of the middle path is all about resonance. When you resonate with love, that's who you naturally attract. You then simply have to meet them halfway to elevate your consciousness and to raise your vibration to receive and discern their guidance. Remember that while not all spiritual beings are trustworthy and reliable guides, you do have access to reliable support and guidance, and the more you're able to remain conscious in the moment, the more